The horizons of horror often tread past the lines of rational thought, and various movies explore the abstract concepts and psychedelic elements to add to the terrifying experiences. While it might be difficult to rigidly define psychedelic horror as a genre, we have tried to compile a list of the films that have the ability to toy with your mind through visual or conceptual hallucinogens. In this video, we bring you some of the finest psychedelic horror movies across the ages. So now is the time to put your conventional thinking aside. Now, before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means an awful lot. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. Suspiria, 1977. Susie Banyan is an enthusiastic and ambitious American ballet student, and she arrives in Germany to enhance her skills. She reaches the prestigious Tanz Dance Academy in the dead of the night in pouring rain, but is denied entry and watches a woman fleeing the school. The next morning, she is allowed entry, and she finds out that the woman who fled last night has been found dead. She soon realizes that there are many more dark secrets about the school than she had anticipated, and Susie is faced with the challenges of bizarre events, a strange sickness, and the real truth about the school, the actual face of this renowned academy. This Italian horror flick is directed by the legendary Dario Argento, and he did not spare any efforts in creating an underrated masterpiece. The movie is as entertaining as it is artistic, and the simple yet effective plot makes sure that there isn't a single dull moment throughout the narrative. The spooky ambiance and tension reflects nicely in the colourful 1970s aesthetic style, and it's a visually arresting experience that soaks in all the psychedelic effect. The actors do a fine job of portraying the crisis and chaos, and many view Suspiria as Dario Argento's crowning glory in stylish filmmaking. It is a hallucinogenic trip through the world of fear, blood, occult, and horror, and we strongly recommend checking out the uncut Italian print for best results. The Boxer's Omen, 1983. This movie begins with an intense boxing match between Chan Wing and Bu Bo, where Wing wins the fight but is paralyzed by an illegal sucker punch after the bell. Wing's brother Chan Hung is a member of a Hong Kong gang, and he is kidnapped after his gang leaders are killed by a rival gang. However, Hung is saved by the apparition of a Buddhist monk, and he starts to have several strange visions. Meanwhile, he heads out to get revenge for his brother in Thailand and discovers Bu Bo at another match, but he soon finds himself in a complex web of black magic and discovers that there are greater powers at play. His arrival in Thailand was a prophecy by a Buddhist monk in a local monastery, and his arrival has more meaning than he realizes. The Boxer's Omen comes straight from the Pandora's box of the Shaw brothers, and if you haven't experienced Asian horror movies at their fullest, you've never seen anything like this before. It has everything within the story, from unexpected twists and turns, cheap monsters and practical effects, and some incredible magical confrontations and fights. It's total cinematic insanity Hong Kong style, and the surreal craziness that you'll find here is of the highest order. While it may come across as more of a guilty pleasure, the psychedelic elements in the story are unmistakable. Check out this unique Hong Kong horror flick to understand how weird can be fun and entertaining as well. The Lighthouse, 2019. Imagine this for a setting for a horror film. The late 19th century in New England, and a man named Ephraim Winslow is sent to serve alongside a strange old man at a lighthouse on an isolated island. This old man is named Thomas Wake, and he has some strange habits and rituals, and as Winslow soon finds out, there is a lot that the old man has been hiding in his solitary existence. As the challenges continue to grow in this life away from civilization, the grips of insanity tighten around the two men who have only each other for company. Is it truly just their minds playing tricks on them, or is there indeed a sinister, unexplained force at work on the island? The Lighthouse is a modern-day gem that combines mythology with a creepy storytelling, serving an unforgettable experience overall. It uses the atmospheric elements derived from the tense narrative and tells a story about people who fail to understand themselves. The performances from seasoned actors like Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson add to the brilliance points of this movie. One, that in this 1890s setting is already deeply unsettling because of certain visuals. The psychedelic additions not only add to the mystery, but also provide the backdrop for the final reveal. This movie contains ample amounts of blood and violence, and some of the imagery might be too uncomfortable for the squeamish. But that being said, it's an experience that no horror fan should be deprived of. The Visitor, 1979. This surreal story is about a cosmic battle where a young 8-year-old girl with special powers is caught up in greater conflicts than what she can comprehend. A wealthy basketball team owner named Raymond is dating Barbara Collins, who has a powerful alien genetic force in her womb. Her preteen daughter Katie is already showing signs of these powers, and the new baby to be born is going to carry them forward. Raymond is only with Barbara to make use of these insane powers, but his plans are thwarted when an older man from another world appears. He is the force of good who tries to change the course of Katie and tries to take her to the place where innocence can still thrive. Can he succeed against the overwhelming evil forces? Many have looked away from this film because at first glance it does seem like an incoherent mess. However, if you take your time to understand the setting, you'll see that this movie is unquestionably unique. The narrative is gripping and thorough, and there's not a dull moment. We also loved the classic 1970s atmosphere, and the acting performances from the likes of Lance Henriksen, Glenn Ford, and Mel Ferrer deserve a special mention as well. The psychedelics are constant throughout, and there's a few scenes that go a bit too weird to comprehend. A tricky climax leaves just a bit of a mystery, but we strongly vouch for this gloriously ludicrous mess that will sharpen your thinking game. Mandy, 2018. A story set in the 1980s revolves around the quiet lumberjack Red Miller, who has chosen a life of serenity with his girlfriend Mandy in a cabin in the woods. Their peaceful life is interrupted when Mandy is spotted by the deranged leader of a delusional cult. The cult members terrorize the couple, and Red slowly spirals into madness from the trauma and pain. Eventually, he embarks on a violent journey of blood-soaked vengeance as the quiet lumberjack gives it back to the cult in the most gruesome ways imaginable. One of the first things you'll notice about Mandy is just how beautifully it's shot and how innovative its visuals are. It's an excellent revenge drama at heart, but this trippy journey is what makes it stand out among many others like it. Everything starts off nice and slow, but when the situation worsens, the violence is intense and at times honestly quite disturbing. Nicolas Cage is Red Miller, and he's the perfect casting for the role, and you also need to appreciate the direction for the clever use of colours, bathed in deep purples, indigos, yellows and greens, and of course not forgetting red. Overall, Mandy is an audio-visual experience that will take you on a psychedelic journey without any of the negative effects of actual hallucinogenics. Videodrome, 1983. Max Wren is the president of a local sleazy cable TV station, and he's always on the lookout for innovative programs to create a spike in viewership. During his quest, he stumbles upon a hyper-violent torture show called Videodrome and tries his best to find the origins of the program. When his girlfriend goes to audition for the show, Max slowly gets a whiff of the underlying plot of the program, and it takes him on a hallucinatory journey through the world of conspiracies, games, and bodily transformations. This David Cronenberg film is now regarded as a cult classic and one of the finest body horror movies of all time. However, it also scores high in the psychedelic effect that the visuals have on the viewers. Even after all these years, this movie still looks prophetic, ahead of its time, and the relevance of the story is its biggest wonder. The narrative manages to repulse and intrigue simultaneously, which is probably the weirdest description that you've ever heard about a great film. Anyone familiar with Cronenberg's work will know that it's not meant for the faint of heart, but if you can brave through the bizarre violence, you're in for a treat. Admittedly, Videodrome is an acquired taste, but should you familiarise yourself to such classics, there's no looking back. The Love Witch, 2016. Elaine is a gorgeous young witch, obsessed with the idea of finding a man for herself to love. She lives in a gothic Victorian apartment and makes various spells and potions to help her in picking up men. However, such spells are often too overpowering and end up causing serious consequence for the victims. One such victim ends up committing suicide, and Detective Griff investigates the case only to meet Elaine. She immediately begins to believe that he is the love of her life, the one she has been seeking all along. We'll Will this be the end of her tiring journey, or will the gods of love continue to elude her? When a movie made in 2016 boasts some genuine 1960s vibes, you know that the creators took the content seriously. The Love Witch also wouldn't be possible without the breathtakingly captivating performance from Samantha Robinson. Even the makeup effects are on point, and they help in perfecting the art of the director Anna Biller, whose attention to detail is absolutely stunning. If there's one thing it could have been better, it may be the duration, as it's a bit too long for comfort, but that being said, you can watch the film for the terrific visuals and gritty storyline alone. And a word of caution, the hallucinating effects will stay with you for quite a while after you're done watching. Possessor 2020. This movie is set in a somewhat dystopian future where an assassin named Tasia Voss takes control of the bodies of other people so that they can be manipulated to perform her killings. This works by installing a special implant into the host's brain, which takes over the host's own self. These hosts are forced to commit suicide after every hit, and Voss uses her own consciousness to take control over these victims. While Voss is a high-profile assassin, working for the most powerful people imaginable, the repeated actions bring up a few challenges even for her. Can she continue on her bloody ways, or is there a heavy price to be paid? This Brandon Cronenberg film has his father's penchant for blood, and the sci-fi action drama is thoroughly entertaining. There's also some great performances in this film, and some amazing visual choices that uplift the whole experience. The story is compelling, and the new age touch with some technical elements make it a nail-biting affair. Even though Possessor is a modern-day film, a majority of the special effects were done practically with very little VFX. We won't complain about the end results, and these practical effects actually add to the psychedelic effect of the movie overall. Finally, this movie captures the treachery of images in a world where nothing is real and everything is virtual and surreal. Miss this one at your own risk. Enter the Void, 2009. What does life after death look like? Enter the Void offers you a psychedelic perspective of this great question, as the story follows the haunting journey of a drug dealer and addict named Oscar, who lives in Tokyo with his sister Linda, who works as a prostitute. After Oscar is killed by the police, his spirit has an overview of everything from his past life to his present day. Oscar witnesses his parents from before their deaths and also watches his own autopsy, thereby coming to terms with his demise. Enter the Void deals with trauma, hesitation and confusion associated around death, and ends up with a satisfying climax wherein Oscar continues to look out for his sister from the afterlife. This French fantasy drama is a psychological and hallucinatory ordeal that will leave a lasting impact on its viewer. It's trippy and it's dreamy, but the efforts are completely worth your time. The impressive special effects work deserve to be applauded, and so too does the ambitious idea that takes you on a deeply mystic and personal journey. If you're easily offended, there's plenty in this movie to put you off, and apart from this, the narrative can get a tad boring for those who are seeking plenty of thrills and actions. Sharper editing could have made this a much better project. However, if you want to savor a memorable cinematic experience, we highly recommend this piece of modern art to satiate your soul. Beyond the Black Rainbow, 2010. The Arborea Institute is a secluded research facility, and Dr. Barry Nile is a demented psychiatrist particularly fascinated with a new female patient named Elena. As he tries to understand her incredible telekinetic and telepathic abilities, he keeps her heavily sedated, but there are certain aspects of her powers that are yet to be understood. She keeps trying to find her way out of the facility, and you have to watch this movie to find out more about Dr. Nile's true intentions. Is the Arborea Institute really just a flawed utopian doctrine that pretends to do good work? This movie takes some getting used to, but once you're right up there, it feels like a wonderful, long, drawn-out sequence, like a shoegaze song coming to a vibrant crescendo. The actual story is relatively simple, but the way it's told will hold your attention the entire time. This film is a tribute to sci-fi B-movies, and the experimental filmmaking style will work for those who have a thing for weird presentations. One of the most impressive factors within this movie is that Elena's mind control scenes are all filmed using camera work and no CGI involved whatsoever. The whole 70s and 80s style and setting looks pretty cool and convincing, and things may have been even better if the narrative didn't get a bit too slow at times, but overall, Beyond the Black Rainbow might not be for the general public, but we rank it very high up among the best psychedelic horror movies. Amer, 2009. Anna used to be quite a rebellious little girl as a child, and she grew up being tormented by disturbing images of death with a shadowy figure lurking around in black. When she grows up to be an adult, she experiences these disturbing visions yet again, and her complex psychology adds up to the situation. The overwhelming force of a profound sexual awakening and the frustrations of a grown-up woman are captured through the carnal search of Anna, and the whole movie is crafted to look like an acid trip into the morbid fascinations of death through her labyrinthine nightmares. Sometimes, movies with a minimalistic story and even fewer dialogues can leave a lasting impact on the audience, and Amer is a great example. The narrative is featured entirely on the protagonist, and the storytelling is neatly divided into 3 distinct chapters: her childhood, her adolescence, and her adulthood. The visuals are highly stylized, and there's no shortage of psychedelic effects for the viewer. If the inventive and artistic cinematography is not impressive enough for you, there's also some memorable acting performances. The purely retro soundtrack goes well with the theme, and if you want to enjoy an experience from within the mind with some vivid imagery thrown in, then Amer is the movie to check out. Color Out of Space, 2019. This cosmic horror flick is a crazy adaptation of a story by H.P. Lovecraft, and it revolves around the Gardeners, a family residing in the remote farmlands of New England. They intend to escape the busy life of the 21st century, but that all changes when a meteorite crashes into their front yard. It slowly seems to melt into the earth, and the family soon realize that something is infecting the land and the animals around the area. As it turns out, an alien force is behind the bizarre changes, slowly mutating every life form in the region. What happens when the quiet family life of the Gardeners transforms into a technicolor nightmare? Color Out of Space is one of the most memorable and visually stunning horror classics in recent times. Richard Stanley did a fabulous job as director, and the movie successfully portrays one of Lovecraft's most oblique entities. One needs to watch the film purely for the effect that the colors are able to cause. The director of photography uses the colors to an effect that you'll never be able to identify one singular color, even though all colors are visual and recognizable. If this doesn't qualify as top-level psychedelic effect, we don't know what does. There's also the element of body horror, and things go completely insane in the final parts of the film. Nicolas Cage again is phenomenal in this movie, and the same is said about the other family members who make up the rest of the cast. For those intrigued by the idea of Lovecraftian horror mixed in with some insane psychedelic elements, this is the movie to check out. Jacob's Ladder, 1990. The movie tells the story of Jacob Singer, who works in the New York Postal Services but has fragmented memories of his life. He was injured in the Vietnam War, and his current life is full of flashbacks to his past. He remembers his first marriage, his dead son, and even his tour of Vietnam, but failing to join the dots actually drives him towards the edge of insanity. His present-day wife tries to help him get a grip on reality and his delusions, but Jacob's visions keep getting worse. Can he remain strong against this haze of PTSD, or will it be the end of him? Although Jacob's Ladder has been purposely made to look like a bad dream, it's not actually too hard to understand if you're open to the various interpretations and remain attentive the whole time. Tim Robbins steals the show as the lead character, and his ordeal is believable and creepy at the same time. This movie is rightly hailed as the grandfather of the rubber reality films, and it went on to inspire many more like it, such as Memento, The Butterfly Effect, and many, many more. The artwork is simply remarkable, and this human drama has been masterfully disguised as a supernatural thriller. The psychedelic portrayal of Jacob's trauma and visions are trippy, and the effects department do a fine job with it. It doesn't only promise entertainment, but proves to be an experience that you will cherish for a very long time. White of the Eye, 1987. There have been a series of murders where the victims are all upper-class married women, and investigations suspect the serial killer may be involved. Detective Charles Mendoza is in charge, and he suspects a sound expert named Paul White may be the killer. In one of the recent crime scenes, the detective finds tire tracks that match with Paul's truck, but Paul is a married man with a child. He tries to prove his innocence, but his wife also steps into the investigation process. Will the mysteries she uncover prove Paul's innocence, or will she send him to jail? White of the Eye is a relatively underrated movie, but it's a project that doesn't deserve to fade away into obscurity. It's beautifully shot, and some of the artsy shots will have you applauding. Even the murder sequences are artistic and the narrative takes its sweet time getting to its point. That being said, the subdued nature of the first half of the film changes very quickly. It becomes an engaging thriller and the tremendous tension in the storytelling simply cannot be ignored. While this plays out more as a nail-biting, suspense-filled story, the trippy shots and some of the mind-rattling moments simply do not go unnoticed. The movie also benefits immensely from the performances of David Keith and Kathy Moriarty, and it might be a hidden gem that you'll thank us for rediscovering. Altered States, 1980. An unconventional genius but crazy graduate student named Eddie Jessup uses himself as a subject for a few experiments in an isolation chamber. He starts to hallucinate in the process, but much of what he sees is more religious than anything else. Several years later, he resumes his experiments, this time using certain hallucinogenics to enhance the experience. He claims to have entered an alternate physical and mental state, but his colleagues are more concerned for his well-being. However, Eddie claims that he enters an uncontrollable stage and with time, his sensory deprivation experiments cause his grip on reality to be damaged. Can he return to normalcy, or is it simply too late? Altered States actually shines through its intricate construction, and the storytelling will be quick to grab your emotions and get you involved personally. Ken Russell's direction has been purposely toned down for the movie, but he still manages to leave behind his stamp. The disturbing hallucination sequences are handled expertly, and the psychedelic effect of some of these shots will leave you in a trance. Aside from the intriguing plot, there's an extraordinary musical score that plays a big role in the scheme of things, and John Corigliano even got an Academy Award nomination for his efforts. This movie manages to be loud and violent and thought-provoking and deep all at the same time, and everybody needs to check out this surreal and intelligent sci-fi horror drama. And so we've reached the end of our list. While these movies are directly classified as psychedelic horror by a wider audience, there are many more that are intriguing enough to be tagged under the same genre. So let us know in the comments below about the ones in this list that appealed to you most, and also tell us about some of the recent psychedelic horror films that impressed you. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.